episode, and so everybody's back. Most everybody, yeah. Are we ready to go?
Yeah,
I think so.
Awesome. I think so. Alright, let's do this. So today we're going to talk about something that everyone here can relate to very strongly, I'm sure. We're going to talk about language and learning languages, speaking languages, and I think this is a topic we're all really excited about. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first question that I have for you guys is kind of a question that we can all just think about. I don't know if anybody has any strong opinions on it, but I've thought about it before. So if you know that you'll never travel to another country or go abroad, do you think it's still necessary to learn another language?
In Japan, we definitely think so, because I think almost every country implements English as their second language if it's not an English-speaking country. And America is the center of the world economy, kind of. So it is, I guess, necessarily skill that you have to learn in order to go in the business world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remember reading a statistic that said that only 25% of American adults can speak another language, which is really interesting, because compare that to most other countries where like it's like 75% or 80% or something like that, especially like, yeah, I don't know, I just think it's really interesting that we don't see it as a necessity as much. So
I've noticed that a lot of second language learning in America is kind of half-assed.
Yeah.
You go to the necessary level of you can speak and have a conversation with other people. They just kind of do it for a few years in high school, a few years in college, and that is definitely not enough for you to like go to a different country and speak that language.
We started to learn English, I feel like, in elementary school. So at that time, we have our individual thoughts about like traveling abroad or something. You just one of the subjects we have to study, just like math or Chinese, mandatory subjects. So like I would say, but like we never realized that like why we want to learn the language just for the test. But like later on when we get to junior high school, we were able to use the language to communicate or like watch American movies and everything without subtitle. That was the time you can feel wow, like you can actually use another language to communicate. That was really cool.
And what about in Congo? What's your experience?
Well, it's quite similar but different, since in the Congo we have over 200 languages. So that's pretty crazy just to wrap your mind around. And then, well, for me, my parents come from two different tribes, so they speak two different languages. But growing up, they spoke Swahili, which is none of their languages. So they taught us Swahili, and then when I went to school, we learned French, which is the national language of English is national in America. And throughout the whole school system is in French. But when you reach secondary school, they start teaching you English. Yeah, now they're doing English and maybe another foreign language. I think they picked up on Spanish and Arabic because those are the growing languages. So it's quite important for you to pick up English because most of the important jobs, like you have to know French and English or another language. So just knowing your mother tongue or French is not really going to give you an edge in the market in any field that you're looking at. You have to know French, English, or something else. Just saying, oh, I know 3 languages and they're all local languages. Okay, everyone can speak 3 languages. So like,
That's amazing.
When I tell people, oh yeah, English is my 3rd language, like what? Yeah, English is my mom's like 5th language. So learning the different languages is really important because everyone knows like the basic languages. So you have to make yourself as international as possible. Even though you'll never leave the country, you have to know.
In order to learn a language, you really got to step out of your comfort zone and be okay with making mistakes because you're gonna make a lot of them. So what about in German? Like, have you ever?
So
I mean, I make mistakes in English too.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
One of my good friends, Johanna, she was visiting me in Northeast Ohio, and we were just practicing in conversation because I like to try that sometimes to improve. And it was kind of warm because it was the summer, and so I was trying to like explain how I felt, and I said "Ich bin heiß," and that kind of translates to "I am hot." But in their slang, it actually means I am slutty. So, yeah, what I meant to say was mir ist heiß, because that's dative. So sometimes you just have to be careful with like the way that you say words. So
Yeah.
you know, that was kind of awkward.
What about for you, Tower?
I would say like the first time I came to United States, you know, like on how we practice English back in China is like the standardized way. Okay, if you ask me how are you, I will answer like I'm fine, thank you, and you. It's just like really standardized. So like, but people don't use like how are you really often over here. They use like what's up, like what's the matter, this kind of thing. So the first time I heard what's up, I actually like every time I started look up. I was like, so it just floored like what's special about that, and then I was like, I was really confused. I didn't answer, and then we were outside. They were like, "What's up again?" I was like, American love like looking up like without like actually looking up, ask us to looking up. But like later on, I found out that's like just like a general greeting.
Yeah.
So I would say that was really embarrassed because I didn't ask them. I actually look up. So every time it's just like this. It was really embarrassing.
How long did it last for?
I would say 1 year. Then I really.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. But right now, I actually use that as a joke. I was just like selling sky.
Oh, yeah. The ceiling.
Right.
So I wanted to talk for a minute about maybe some of the societal expectations of learning other languages. And we kind of touched down on this in the first question, I think. But how are languages valued where you come from? So we talked about school a little bit, but in general, what does society think of learning another language?
Well, obviously Japan thinks learning English is kind of a necessity, and recently it's getting more and more, I guess, standardized in schools. Like 10 years ago, people started learning English very, very late in their school career. But nowadays, I think a lot of elementary schools are starting to implement English as their standard classes.
I think in America, as like I kind of touched on before, it's not really valued as much as it seems in other countries. It's pretty optional, but I think when you do learn in high school, I think the standard pretty much is Spanish because of like the high influx of Spanish-speaking people that we have to America. And it's always on like a lot of our products. You'll see English and then Spanish translations. So if we do learn a language, I think most people do Spanish, but it's really not necessary for us.
So when I was in Netherlands, I studied Dutch. So like I have like lots of like I met lots of Dutch friends as well. The way how they're learning language is really different because they consider English as their mother tongue as well. So they were just like you were born, you're supposed to speak English, though you don't consider English as their second language. So instead, they learned like Italian, Spanish, or French when they were young. So when they were enter college, they can speak like 4 languages fluently already. So that's really impressive.
I was just gonna ask you, like, since there are so many like almost official languages of the Congo, like for your signs or websites or laws, like what language are they?
So when you're in public, you almost communicate with everyone in French, but when you go back in your community, you speak with your parents in your mother tongue. Your neighbor might be speaking a different language, so you have to know their language if you want to communicate with them. So it gets a little complicated, but at the national level, it's French and English. English is getting integrated, but at home, maybe it gets a little messy because you have to if you go to your father's side of the family and they don't speak your mother's language, then you have to learn their language. I think I read somewhere like after 13, then you pick up an accent when you speak that language. Someone can know, okay, that's not your native language. Like when I speak English, you definitely pick it up. But if I go back to speak, like I'm relearning French, although I'm relearning it right now, I don't have an accent as someone who heard it, who's picking it up the new time. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. It's very difficult when you look at trying to teach Japanese people English because a lot of times I try to fit this specific part of the Japanese grammar to English. The grammatical system is so different that maybe might as well just kind of start from scratch instead of trying to translate the Japanese grammatical system to English grammatical system. Yeah.
So you just start learning what is grammar all over again. Yeah. And by learning a lot, by learning another language, I found that you also learn a lot about your own. I mean, I learned things I didn't know how English worked before I started learning another language. I mean, no matter how much my English teachers told me. Yeah, try me. I never got it. But speaking of education, what would you improve about your language learning education systems in your own country?
Okay, I'm gonna start with Japanese. But one thing that I'm pretty critical about Japanese English learning educational system is it's heavily kind of test English. So a lot of people learn English just to pass the test. It's called TOEFL. and just get the passing grade so you can claim that you can speak English. And it's not like a practical English where you can fluently or smoothly have a conversation with other people. The teacher that teaches English in Japan is actually not a fluent speaker. So they don't have the natural speaking experience, so they have a lot of accent. And because that happens, the student will have a lot of accent and cannot kind of eliminate it. They have no chance to eliminate it.
I think as we've made it pretty clear, America doesn't hold the highest regard to learning a second language. And even when you do, like you said, it's not till 7th, some people not till 9th grade. Obviously, if we were integrating it like all of your guys' countries do in primary school, I think we would have a lot better success at learning another language. Also, I think, and I've heard from both sides, that when you learn another language, sometimes the examples that are given can be kind of weird, or the way that you address people. So I think it's interesting how some countries, when they teach a language, they won't necessarily teach it the way that the native speakers actually use it, or like why they would teach you things that aren't the way that they actually
One
do
good
it.
example in Japanese of that is actually one of the ways you learn how to greet is how do you do? Like who says how do you do? But people learn that
In old
use
British
it.
movies.
Basically, and that's what we learn. So we don't learn the natural greeting like how are you
Or what's up?
what's
Yeah.
And I think it will be very beneficial if we learn like more natural phrasing of conversation instead of I don't know, more formal almost way of using the language. Yeah.
I feel, because for me, because I've been learning like 6 languages, I feel language is more like a tool for me. Like it's kind of like depends like how well I can deliver the message from my side to other people, if they can understand. It doesn't matter if I have accent, because when I first entered United States, I have like strongest Chinese accent. But like, should I say, oh my god, my English is so bad, should I talk or not? I still keep talking. Right now my accent's better, but I just don't really care about accent. I feel like as long as I can deliver the message, what I want to say about another people, about something to another person, so that's perfect enough. Because like for me, I feel communication, that's the key point for language. Yeah.
So I definitely learned a lot more today. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was so cool. Yeah, I love talking about this. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about with other people whose language. And I'm really glad that us Buckeyes got to talk about it. So that's really fun. So thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad that you're watching. We'll see you next episode. Go Bucks!